Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dick Merritt, United States Marine Corps retired. Today is the 10th of May 2013. We are at GrassRoots Community Television in Aspen, Colorado. We are interviewing Brian Porter, U.S. Marine Corps Corporal. He was born on 19 August 1969. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
Good to have you here with us.
It's good to be here.
Jackie Schaefer from GrassRoots is running the camera, and Riza Pontius from the GrassRoots Television is a production engineer. We are working with, and I am a member of the Roaring Fork Veterans History Project. Lance Corporal Brian Porter served in Desert Shield, Desert Storm in 1990 to 1991. He served 4 years and was released as a corporal, and he served in the Mediterranean aboard the aircraft carrier John F. Kennedy, Jungle Warfare School in Panama, and in Iraq. And we'll just go ahead and start talking a little bit about how you got in the Marine Corps, and here you are sitting today. How did you happen to join the Marine Corps?
I joined the delayed entry program at the age of 17. I had a sort of a chance to wrestle in college, but didn't really have the wherewithal to pay for college, so I knew I needed to do something, and I went down and talked to the Army first, and they didn't have the job I wanted, so I went down and talked to the Marine Corps and came home with the paperwork for my mom to sign that same day.
Marine recruiters did their job. So did you go to boot camp when you're 17 years old, or was when you got 18?
When I turned 18, actually. I was on the delayed entry program for approximately a year, 17 to 18. I didn't turn 18 until after I'd already graduated high school, so I had to wait about 2 months to go into boot camp.
Did the recruiters work with you during that delay entry program?
Absolutely, yeah. We did different trainings, group runs, PT stuff. We shot M16s, you know, so we had, similar to being in the reservist program, you know, we would have a once a month sort of a weekend training plan, so we would go out and, you know, kind of experiment a little bit to see what it was like to be in the Marine Corps a little bit as a young kid.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was in charge of recruiting in Detroit, Michigan, early 70s, and we had the delayed entry program and had to keep the troops in shape, because if they failed to graduate, it reflected upon our command, or myself, that we didn't do a very good job of selection. So obviously the Marine Corps did a good job of selecting you to be one of the proud and the few. What was your first day like at boot camp?
Probably one of the more scary days of my life. Living in San Diego at the time, they picked me up in a minivan, so I did not get that initial bus to yellow footprint introduction. I actually got sat down in the hall and immediately started reading my 11 general orders, and I was probably there for 3 or 4 hours by myself until the groups of young men started arriving, and as soon as that happened, it was on.
Did you see any of the boots recruits in the yellow footsteps getting off the bus, how they were handled?
I did, yeah, I did.
What was your impression of that?
I knew that was coming my way quite quickly, and it was shocking. Lots of chaos. It seemed the first, you know, I bet it was 3 days of just not even knowing which way was up until you kind of got settled down into a bit of a routine. Yeah, amazing experience. I remember thinking I could pretty much jump the fence and walk home, but that was not an option.
Right, you're in San Diego, and the bright lights are out there, and the airplanes are flying in, and as opposed to boot camp at Paris Island, which is out in the swamps. I've been there. And,
exactly.
Moss hanging off the trees and dark at night. It's totally different.
Not so easy to escape.
Yeah, escaping, yeah. Do you remember any of your DIs, drill instructors?
I sure do, all three of them, quite well, yeah. Sergeant Tukes stands out in my mind as being probably the scariest. He was our sort of, he wasn't the junior, he wasn't the senior, he was just our drill instructor, and man, he made quite the impression on us, I believe. One of those weird instances in life where you hate somebody for quite a long time with a pretty deep passion, and as soon as he calls you a Marine upon graduation day, you realize what you've just gone through, and it was an amazing experience.
How did you gain respect for his authority? Was it based upon his bill or his stance or the ribbons that he had on his chest?
It wasn't ribbons at all. I believe they probably only had one Sea Service ribbon at a time as far as they were concerned. It was just, at some point I realized what they were doing to me was just making me stronger, and it was a benefit to me. And so I looked at every time, you know, I was in a physical endeavor and ready to be tired and almost stop. I was like, it just, something soaked into me, and I said, you know what, you can't break me. You can't, you know, you're just making me stronger, and it's going to be harder for you to break me even later. So I looked at it as a challenge and relished it, actually.
Well, from your high school wrestling, you were quite strong, and you have a very good physique today. I think that a combination of high school wrestling and Marine Corps physical training puts you in the shape you are today.
Absolutely, yep. I still like to maintain that somewhat of a level of physical ability.
Did everyone in your platoon make it through boot camp?
Not at all. I believe we started with well over, or just over 100 people, and I believe we graduated with closer to 50 people.
Wow.
I would have to count, but yeah,
That's
there were
a pretty high washout rate.
pretty high. Had a couple of suicides, a couple of severe injuries from the towers that you have to climb and go over, and then, you know, just the regular washout, or people that got shuffled back or rephased, I guess.
Mental, overweight, things like that.
Absolutely,
They had a
yeah.
special platoon for overweight to
absolutely, yeah.
shape them up.
Diet privates.
They had that. So tell me about your graduation day when you became a Marine and were ready to go out the fleet.
It was, yeah, I was the first squad leader, and so I graduated as a PFC, so I was quite excited about that. I figured it gave me a leg up a little bit as far as pay scale and duty, and I will say probably was, to this day, one of the proudest days of my life. Just that sense of accomplishment and knowing what we as Marines go through to achieve that title. It was quite a special day. Yeah.
That speaks very well of your leadership to be promoted meritoriously out of boot camp.
Right.
Not everyone gets that.
No, and they just informed me that I was the squad leader one day as well. There was I don't remember much of a selection process. It just
That's the way it is in combat too. One day the lieutenant gets killed and the sergeant takes over the platoon.
Right. Yep.
Do you remember the graduation parade? Any of your family there for it?
I do. My mom was there. My older sister was there, and my grandfather and grandmother were there. And yeah, it was our platoon was fortunate enough to win honor platoon, so we were the best in the rifle range, the best in drill. We actually won pretty much every category, and I attribute that definitely to the diligence of our drill instructors. They were definitely hard drivers, so I think that represented when we graduated top of the class. So.
Well, many times when the Marines graduate from boot camp and their parents come from a great distance, and the Marine comes to see the family, they don't recognize him in that he's lean and mean and
Yep.
in shape.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Long-haired kid to that.
Right. Okay. So that's what you look like that's your boot camp photograph there.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Handsome young Marine in the dress blues.
Shaved
Proud
every
with-
day and did not have a lick of hair growing on my face.
There you go. So there's the Marine Corps colors right in the background, and we proudly display them as Marines. After you graduated from boot camp, what was your next assignment?
School of Infantry. I was, when I had signed up on the delayed entry program, part of the perk was I wanted to do something more than just be an 0311. So I signed up for the security forces, and part of that is you have to qualify high enough to continue on with that. So I went and was trained as a 0331, which is a heavy machine gunner, which was my basic MOS. I had told my recruiter I wanted to shoot machine guns out of a helicopter for a job. So 3 months of School of Infantry. And then which is at Camp Pendleton, California. And then I basically qualified highly enough out of that school to go to Little Neck, Virginia, and go to Security Forces School. So that was, I believe, a month long of hostage situations, special weapon recovery, and that type of stuff.
0311 being basic infantryman.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Every Marine is a rifleman, and even though I was in artillery, I served in an infantry aspect in Vietnam. So cooks, bakers, everybody is prepared to be infantry.
That is correct. That's what sets the Marine Corps apart.
Right. So it was, highly selective for you to go back for this specialized training. And after you finished that, where did you go?
I got stationed on the USS John F. Kennedy, at the time the largest conventional powered aircraft carrier, which I wasn't very excited about. So I was excited that I'd qualified, but I really kind of wanted an embassy duty, which was what I was hoping for. Worked out that I got stationed on the USS John F. Kennedy, and we basically then, did some tours on the east coast of the United States, Florida, Boston, and then after being on the ship for about 6 months, we got sent to the Mediterranean, and we were going to spend 6 months in the Mediterranean. Our job over there was basically providing security for some special weapons, and also training with embassy Marines, hostage situations, that type of stuff. On our way over there was an incident where some Libyan MiGs locked onto our planes that were patrolling. Our jets ended up shooting them down. We basically got on a helicopter, went and picked up the pilots, put them in our brig for a few days until we could deal with them, and then spent 56 days at sea, which was interesting. Got 2 Budweisers after 50 days.
In the late 80s?
The 1988, exactly. Yep. And then once that had kind of cleared up, it actually was a great assignment. We would get about 9 days at a time, and we would have 3 days of duty, 3 days of training, and 3 days off. And so we basically would fly into Italy off of the aircraft carrier via helicopter or cod plane, and train for a couple of days, and then have a few days off to go explore, and then have a duty days essentially where we would actually be doing something. And it was actually quite a fun time. Got to see a lot of different countries, and exposed me to a lot of parts of the other world that I probably would have never seen, and opened up my mind to what other people endure for living conditions, and what life is like for other people.
Great education. Join the Marine Corps and see the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Being assigned to sea duty is like in the same category as what we call water walkers in the Marine Corps. That would be drill instructor, highly selective, embassy duty. You're representing your country in foreign nations. And this sea duty is very similar in that you have to be really very sharp, and then recruiting duty is the third one. So let's take a look at this photograph here on this one right here. Just leave it right there. And just looks like some Marines doing drill, rifle drill.
That's correct. This is me here in the front as a young Lance Corporal. We had our silent drill team. It was something that was, I'm not sure if every place had a silent drill team, but it was something that was set up and already going when I was there, and it was something that I wanted to do. I was always looking for extra duty for some reason, and so I tried out for the silent drill team, and we put on performances in Boston for the mayor. We put on performances in different locations, essentially. When we would pull into port, it was part of our deal. So yeah, it was a great time.
Did you have any other assignments on the John F. Kennedy as like a guns mount or anything like that?
We did. So if there were any general quarters situations or anything, there were only 60 of us Marines on an aircraft carrier, and we had a good station of duty because there was it went right from our CO, who was a captain, to the CO of the ship. There was no one in between us, so we could go anywhere we wanted. We had head of the line privileges for chow, PX, but at the same time, again, if anything went wrong, we were basically essentially tasked to defend the ship. So we had either to get on a helicopter if it was something that was a land-based thing, or we had duty stations. My personal station was the fantail of the ship, actually, on a 50 cal. So anytime the general quarters alarm sounded, I basically beat feet to the rear of the ship and manned a 50. So.
Well, did you have a lieutenant and a gunnery sergeant with you?
We did. We had a gunnery sergeant, then we had a first lieutenant, and then a captain.
So the relationship with the commander of the ship, the captain of the ship, was very close with the Marine detachment.
Yes, sir. We were probably some of the only people that could at any point walk right up to the control room of the ship just unannounced and stand inside, be on the flight deck. We pretty much had free will to go wherever we wanted on the ship.
Well, you know, they say that these aircraft carriers are a floating city. How did you find the size of the ship and getting around and everything that they had on the ship to take care of thousands of sailors and you Marines?
Right. It's with 5,000 to 6,000 people on these things. It is a moving city. It's quite large, you know, so your first time seeing one in real life, you're always impressed about how large it is. And I think then once you're on it and sort of noticing all of the passageways and levels and decks, how intricate and complicated it is. You know, multiple elevators, all of the launch systems, I believe 60 to 70 airplanes on there, helicopters. So it is a beehive of activity at all points. It's interesting. And something about standing on the fantail in a rolling sea and watching a gentleman land an airplane on the top of that. Man, I never forget
Great
that.
skill, great courage.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I was a Navy midshipman for 4 years before I got commissioned in the Marine Corps, and you know, then I got in the Marine Corps, and I got on the ships in Vietnam, you know, and jokingly the sailors would call the Marines seagoing bellhops. Did you ever hear that?
Absolutely, quite a few. It seemed to vacillate between people that wanted to be Marines and were trying everything to be your buddy to everybody else that hated you.
Yeah, I know. Well, as being on the silent drill team and exhibiting leadership skills, I have here a meritorious mast from the commanding officer. This is from Captain Dobbins, is that his name?
Correct, yep.
And this is from your captain. During the recent Commanding General's inspection of the Marine Detachment USF John F. Kennedy, CV-67, you distinguished yourself through your dedication and hard work. The countless long and arduous hours you put forth in preparation for this very detailed and demanding inspection earned the detachment many outstanding and excellent grades in our final evaluation. Your personal efforts were tremendous and have helped to set the detachment apart from many other fine detachments within the Fleet Marine Force Atlantic Security Forces. Your pride and determination reflect great credit upon yourself in this detachment and are in the keeping with the highest tradition of the United States Marine Corps. And that's what you did, and that's what the Marines do, is to maintain the highest traditions of the Marine Corps. And this was dated 10 September 1989. And along with that, the captain of the ship, Captain Brown, recognized you, and I'd like to read this citation from the Department of the Navy, USS John F. Kennedy, CV-67. The commanding officer presents to Lance Corporal Brian E. Porter, United States National Ensign. Now, do you have anything representing that today?
I have the ensign with me, yes.
Okay, would you hold that up?
I will.
And I think this is a really accomplishment. Here's the National Ensign folded in the triangle. And Captain Brown, United States Navy, cites you on behalf of your many shipmates to Lance Corporal Brian E. Porter, including those who have made the supreme sacrifice. We wish to present you to what you is known as the military man's most honored and cherished possession, United States National Ensign. This flag which you have so proudly served and so honorably defended. The flag which we honor and serve under is a true emblem of our unity, our thoughts, our power and purpose as a nation. Accept it, protect it, guard it, and ever remember that the young men and women you have trained, guided, and inspired will follow in your footsteps and defend it with equal pride. On this occasion, we consider we have lost a true shipmate while society has gained a fine citizen. We bid you fair winds in the following sea. Good luck and Godspeed. H.A. Brown, Captain, United States Navy. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And speaking about, you know, the future, I understand that you just have a new daughter. How old is she?
I do. She's 5 months old.
Okay,
Yep.
so this is something that you'll want to pass on to her.
Absolutely, yep.
She'll be proud of that.
Yep, exactly.
That's good. So anyway, your time ended on the Kennedy. What was next for you?
I went back to what is called our Fleet Marine Force, and which is, for me, was back to Camp Pendleton. I was stationed with 1-5. We basically were in California for approximately a month, and then we were scheduled to ship out to Panama. We were doing our jungle training down there, and I believe at the same time kind of acting as somewhat of a presence because of the issue with Noriega at the time. So
let's put this up here. Talk a little bit about the Jungle Operations Training Center. You have a certificate there.
Yeah.
And honorary title of jungle expert.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
The scariest place I've ever been in my life. Yeah, so 32 days, I believe, out in the jungle, and we spent the first couple of days in Panama learning about all the stuff that could kill you, hurt you, do harm to you, i.e. the crocodiles, piranhas, snakes, and stuff. And then we basically went out and learn how to survive and how to operate in the jungle and do basically some, and yeah, we played war games against I believe it was the 101st Airborne. So we basically had mock battles, and it was my first opportunity to join what's called Battalion Recon. When I was in the Marine Corps, you couldn't just join recon until you had actually already served a tour or were a corporal. But what they did was you sort of stepped into a battalion recon level. And so I basically operated in a four-man team. And yeah, we were scheduled to be down there for I believe, a bit longer.
How many Marines were with you when you did your training?
Well, I believe we went down, there were about, I want to say about 250 of us that actually went down, and then we broke up and dispersed from there. So I basically got shuffled down to a four-man team, and so I mostly spent all of my time with them. And again, yeah, and after, I want to say it was just a little bit over a month, my squad had walked into the command tent of the airborne operating and captured their battalion commander. So we were quite excited about it, and we got a radio call telling us to meet a helicopter at a location out in the jungle. So we sort of beat feet, made it to the location, and my ultimate guise was, yes, we're getting some liberty and getting out of the jungle for a few days as a recommendation or as a job well done. And little did I know we were actually transitioning somewhere else. So. Interesting time.
And your parent organization is still the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines?
Yes, sir.
You're
Yes,
just
sir.
TAD?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yep.
on that. So after you finished the jungle warfare training, what was your next assignment?
We left Panama. We landed in, we landed in Southern California at Camp Pendleton, or just outside of Camp Pendleton. We went to the armory, and we started picking up some weapon systems. And at the time, there were no cell phones or anything like that, but we weren't allowed to make any phone calls, contact anyone, write any letters. We weren't sure what was happening, but we knew something was happening. We picked up ammunition, weapon systems, and our Humvee, which is always a sure sign that you're going somewhere where there's not a jungle. And we basically flew to Labrador, Newfoundland, refueled, flew to Spain, refueled, came off the plane ready to go in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And so we were some of the first Marines, or if not the first Marines over. We basically secured the port for a couple of days in Saudi Arabia so they could land a few more Marines behind us, and then we moved out into the desert.
Well, you were a member of a very proud Marine Corps regiment, the 5th Marine Regiment. They distinguished themselves in World War I, World War II, and all the way through. Were you at Camp Margarita at Camp Pendleton?
San Mateo, actually.
San Mateo, up north.
Yep,
yeah.
up north,
Yeah.
yep.
And my brother was with 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines at Margarita. They're back there today at Margarita. And,
Absolutely.
I was with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines in Vietnam, so we have that common brotherhood.
Absolutely. That's why I got
Marines.
detached from the Marine Corps by 3-5, actually.
Yeah,
so,
I
yep.
got that on your DD 214.
Yep.
So anyway, you're in Iraq. Let's pull these other photos down and put up some what you look like, how you dressed, what the uniform was, and we'll talk a little bit about that. There you go. There you are.
I'll put up like just a couple of samples, or?
Yeah. Okay, and let's put this one up too. This one here.
This ZSU.
Okay. There you go. Okay, there you are. Point yourself there in uniform.
So this is me in typical desert attire after when we first got there, we didn't have anything that was desert colored. Everything was green. We were our Humvee, our camis, everything. So we initially made mud, covered ourselves in mud, covered our Humvee in mud, and we had to live like that for approximately a month, I believe, until they could actually get a painting system out for our Humvee and get us some desert fatigues. But it's
How long were you in a holding pattern there before you actually moved north?
literally only a couple of days.
Couple of days.
Literally 2 days, I believe, it was in the rear, again, securing the port so they could get some other people in. And then our job was, there were 7 vehicles, 32 of us. We basically beat feet up to the Kuwait border, and we basically lived there. We moved every day, so we basically just kind of patrolled and were an initial force for defense.
Well, tell me about your movement north and how far you went, where you ended.
Yep, we basically went up to Kuwait comes down and makes a little bit of a point with Saudi Arabia, and our sort of terrain was that point. So we basically had quite a few kilometers along that border, and so twice a day we did patrols. So we would do 4-hour patrols at a time actively, and then the rest of the time we would basically set up somewhere. We would dig a hole, back our Humvee into it, put a radar scattering net over the top of it, dig a couple of fighting positions off the side, and basically hole up there for a few hours and wait for our next one. But we didn't want to be in the same location just in case, so we moved on a daily basis.
And where did you finally end?
We basically, when combat ended, it was Kuwait City.
Kuwait City, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep.
But how far north did you go?
Basically to the border. So when we went up initially, we were kind of paralleling the border of Iraq and Kuwait. So we had to move in a little bit and then cut back over towards Kuwait City. They were having a bit of a fight over there. So,
Well, let's take a look at some of these photographs here. There's I see. You can point to the burning oil fields there.
yeah, these two photos, you can see the fires and the smoke. What they had done apparently is punch holes in all of these pipelines and light them all on fire, and it was significant. It was obviously the breathing that stuff isn't very good for you, but then also trying to operate when you can't see your hand in front of your face, which there was definitely, we'll call it a couple of days of not being able to see very far and trying to.
Would that be the photo on your right where it's the middle of the day and it looks like if you went in that cloud?
Exactly.
It would be dark.
Exactly.
And you operate with a compass practically.
Absolutely, yep. A compass, and we did have some very rudimentary GPS systems that were quite large that would give you a little bit of an idea of where you were, but it's pretty difficult when you know, even inside of your Humvee, you couldn't see the front of your Humvee. You could barely see the windshield itself. So it was nighttime.
Let's look at this other one. There's a tank there, and it looks like a mess of on the ground. What is that?
It's a T-62 tank. So they had a combination of T-62s and T-72s, which are Russian tanks. And so our job, as part of the scout platoon, was to basically make contact with the enemy by fire, and then sort of gain fire superiority, and then punch through so we could be on the backside of them. So we had come across quite a few tanks initially at our minefield breaches, and we had a 50 caliber machine gun on top of our Humvee with depleted uranium rounds. Those would actually penetrate but not really do too much damage. But our goal was to basically then be able to call one of our tanks or a Cobra helicopter with their depleted uranium rounds. And this is the after effect of one of those rounds on a tank. So
Looks like napalm, looks like jelly. I mean, pretty destructive. Well, let's talk a little bit about the residual effects on the troops of what you encountered. There's several things. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I was exposed to Agent Orange, and it took the government 20 years to recognize the damage the dioxin had done to us. And many of my friends have died and have cancer as a result of that. And then there are things that the government is not really admitting regarding you and Desert Storm, Desert Shield, as regarding your physical well-being. And a couple of the things that have come up is the first one is the depleted uranium there, that perhaps this may cause some residual effects in the reproductive system. Have you any thoughts on that?
I do. You know, at the time, I was pretty enamored with depleted uranium because to me it just meant more firepower and just, you know, you're like fire superiority. So, and thinking about what depleted uranium actually is, it's basically a toxic mineral, yeah, and with our job, we basically got to climb into quite a few bunkers and tanks and make sure there was nothing still kicking around in there.
So you were exposed to some radioactive material.
Absolutely.
And we know what radioactive can do in the tsunami in Japan, and it's an ongoing issue, Chernobyl and that. So that's one thing the government doesn't talk much about.
Yep.
Can affect, you know, your later health. The other thing, let's look at that cloud, that black cloud there. You see all that smoke, and you're breathing in carcinogenic materials there, and perhaps that could have an issue with your long-range health.
Right. I distinctly remember, you know, being back from the Marine Corps and a year after getting out of the Marine Corps, still being able to cough up black substance from my lungs. And I'm not a smoker, so I knew exactly what it was from. You know, it was from breathing this, and so it wasn't just a combat phase that they lit this. These fires were actually burning for a couple of months, actually. So for a couple of months, we were actually breathing this stuff in before we got to where it actually was really heavy, I would call it. So yeah, I believe there was also some data about since Saddam Hussein didn't necessarily have an effective means to deliver chemical weapons, I understand what he did was just dump chemical weapons into some of these pits with oil and light them on fire. So I believe there was other stuff inside of that fumes as well, just beside the carcinogens. So
there's a third issue that is impacting, and that may have to be with the vaccinations that were given, anthrax, and maybe a series of shots that hadn't really been tested by the military to see how they affect one another. And did you have the anthrax? Some people, I understood, refused the vaccinations and were court-martialed. Did you understand how that worked?
Yes, yeah, so the shots, we didn't really get much of a choice on. It was just kind of one of those military wham bam, you know, you just are getting shots. And so yeah, we received some shots, and then the one thing that stuck out at me was they wanted us to take these non-FDA approved nerve gas pills. And so their theory was that similar to the flu, if they gave you a little bit of nerve gas in a pill form, it would help your body build up an immunity to it. I wasn't so happy with that idea, and had a discussion with my team. We decided as a team that we didn't want to take it, and so I informed my superiors that we didn't want to take it, and I sort of got a talking to, I guess, from my commanding officer, and it was posed that court-martial if I really refused, but also that I was risking my men's lives by not properly protecting them by giving them this drug. So I decided that, yep, okay, we're going to take them then. That's what we're here for, and this is what they're asking us to do. So we took these nerve agent pills in conjunction with the shots, and it was pretty horrible.
Yeah, I told you about some of the experiments I was involved in Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, watching the sheep getting killed by sarin, and it was pretty ugly. And today in Syria, there's talk about the government using sarin nerve gas on the populace. So what were the effects of today, do you think, of having taken those nerve gas pills?
So for myself, my biggest issues, I guess, have been some sort of recurring stomach gastrointestinal type issues. And again, I'll stay away from the PTSD type stuff, but so right. Physical ailments, some pretty achy in general, just like there's it's hard to describe, but weird joint pain. So you just feel like you're 90 years old when you're a young man. And it was, again, coming back from the Marine Corps at the ripe young age of 22, I was, almost having a hard time getting out of bed from the aches and pains and just these nauseous feelings and loss of focus and memory at times and concentration. So those are the effects I noticed on myself, and then noticing and my driver's health declined quite rapidly after the first Gulf War, and he actually ended up sort of passing away not too long after that. Complications from a cancerous type subject. He had 2 kids before he passed away. Both of his children sort of had different deformities. So yeah, other people, I guess, have experienced different effects. I feel that one of a shining spot in my life was that I wanted to continue being healthy, and so I forced myself to somewhat eat healthily, maintain a exercise regimen, and try to purge my body, I guess, of anything that was in it.
Well, these issues are an ongoing study by the government. They don't release any statement that, hey, we've got some health issues here from depleted uranium, carcinogenic combination of shots and things like that. But those are definitely here. It took we Vietnam veterans 20 years for the military or the VA, the government, to say, hey, there's a problem, and the problem needs fixing, and we're paying the price. And your group is starting to pay the price for it. So we just are monitoring that very closely.
Yep.
So we thank you for your service in Iraq. I read your certificate, Operation Desert Shield Storm, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, 1990 to 1991, 1990 to 1991, for sustained outstanding performance in the service of the United States of America and the United States Marine Corps. Awarded to Corporal Brian E. Porter. Thanks, Marine Weapons Company, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines. And that's signed by your commander. So thank you and congratulations on doing that. That's very good. So you arrived back in, we call it CONUS, Continental United States, Pendleton. And what did you do at Pendleton after you got out of Iraq?
So I was short. I had less than 3 months left, and there were a number of us that they put us in the Quonset huts up there outside of San Mateo.
World War II Quonset huts.
Exactly. Yep. And asked us to stay out of trouble and collect our paycheck every 2 weeks, and a month before go through our checkout process. So. I had a couple of months of surfing and lazing around, I guess, if you will. I had one inspection that I showed up for in our dress greens, and I had a fresh stack of color on my side, and got questioned about that from the commanding officer of 3-5. He was a little bit suspect about my decorations, but it was actually quite carefree those last few months. There was no, in having some discussions, there was no sort of integration back into society. There was nothing. It was like, turn in your weapon and stay out of trouble. So it was a interesting time, I would say.
So you were there with the young Marines. You were 22?
I was 22, exactly.
Yeah. And anyone that's older than you is considered to be the old man. So at 22, you're an old man in the Marine Corps, right?
Exactly. Yep. I was one of the older ones at that point.
So anyway, you were discharged, and what did you do on the first day you got out of the Marine Corps?
I met some friends. I went to my mother's house. Some friends met me there. We had just a nice dinner and kind of, I believe, quite a few beers from what I remember, just celebrating the fact that my tour was over. I had applied for jobs while I was still in the Marine Corps, and so I actually only had a couple of days before I started my first job, which was for a propane company, Feral Gas. I had a sort of management type position of a satellite office there, and probably lasted about 6 months.
Was that in Southern California?
It was in Fallbrook, exactly.
Fallbrook,
so,
yeah, I know Fallbrook. Yep. Right next to Marine Corps base.
Right,
you can't get away from the Corps.
Yeah, couldn't go very far. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So how long were you in California?
About that 6 months. Something wasn't right. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable with my own skin. Wasn't comfortable with the people I was around. I just I didn't know something was wrong, and I needed to make a change. At some point, I had grown up between Montrose, Colorado, and then moved to California, and I always had this sort of Colorado in my blood a little bit, and I decided I would move out to Colorado for 6 months and just see what happened. And so I came out here where I had some family, a couple of cousins, and I've been here ever since.
Well, perhaps that lack of direction is the loss of the bonding you had with the fellow Marines, because it's a very close bond.
It is. It's your family, and it really is. And there's something about the structure, and dissolving that structure that quickly is definitely a life-changing event. You no longer have a set of rules and regulations that you're living by that somebody else is imposing on you. It's just, almost like being kicked out of the house at 16 and saying make it on your own kind of all again. So it's interesting.
Well, would you agree with me if I said that the bonds that Marines have with each other are bonds for life?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, yep. There are people that I will never forget, people that I did not serve in combat with or anything, even that trying, that I'll never forget. And again, just remembering faces and names, and look at a photo of stuff, and you remember specifics about people. It's that teamwork and that camaraderie that you don't get in anything other than an extremely challenging environment, and the Marine Corps presents that to you in quite a good way.
Yeah, I went to a reunion in Fort Collins a few years ago, or and it was the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. We'd been in Vietnam together, and I got there in the hotel parking lot, and there were all these trucks and cars lined up with Marine Corps bumper stickers and stuff like that. And the one that really stuck in my mind is it said, "The United States Marine Corps, don't ask, you'll never understand."
Right. Exactly.
I think that's pretty true.
I think it's very true, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, you came here to Colorado, and what did you do in Colorado?
When I initially got here, I was a cleaner on a construction crew. I had no construction ability at all, and I needed a job, so I hooked up with a group of guys here that were building a house in 2nd and Bleecker. And that was about my first year here. Construction labor, I'll call it, but with an awesome group of guys. Every one of the 5 to 6 guys that worked on that crew are all still good friends of me to this day. In fact, John Spencer, a good friend of yours, was
teach with.
Yep, he was on that crew. So.
Ski instructor.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, and just never served in the military, but I believe understood kind of where I was coming from, and again, Aspen is a great town, beautiful place to live. The people that live here are always what kept me here. Yeah,
John Spencer's a friend of mine and a fellow ski instructor, and being your close friend, I understood he built a cradle for you for your little girl. He was so proud of that, he told me. And so tell me about that cradle that John built.
He's an amazing, he is an artist. He is not a slap the house up together in 3 days kind of guy. Anything he does with wood is gorgeous. So when my wife got pregnant, unbeknownst to us, he took some of his spare time, of which he doesn't have much, and built an amazing, and he calls it a sladle. It actually is rocks if it's just on its own base one way, and then he built a stand for it that would make it rock the second way. It was all built out of one piece of wood that he split in half and headstoned, and it turns into a sleigh for kids with a rope attachment for the winter time. So yeah, just a great gift, amazing to have.
Well, how did you find the wilderness area here kind of comforting and supporting to you in your adjustment to civilian life? Did you ever go off and just meditate or try to find your direction?
I did. I don't know that I knew it at the time. I didn't know that I was seeking that solace, but the one thing that kept recurring to me was that I had to take time by myself. I couldn't even be around other people. I had to be by myself, and I had to go out someplace and slow life down around me. The wilderness was what did that for me. So I found a combination of getting my heart rate up via sort of vigorous exercise, putting my head in a place that would allow me to relax, which is kind of counterintuitive, but it became my therapy. not knowing how to seek help at the time and not really having a lot of outlets. It was just something that I fell into and was doing without even really knowing it. So years later now, and being involved as you are with Huts for Vets, it's something that I believe is a much needed therapy for people that are suffering from PTSD. And I believe everyone can benefit from it, but yeah, there's something to be said about
We'll
nature.
talk about that in a little bit. Now, for all these years, you know, I've known you at the Marine Corps birthday celebrations, and when I first met you, you were a professional photographer.
That's correct. Yep. Yep. I had moved here. John Spencer, our friend, introduced me to a gentleman who's a Vietnam veteran in the Army, and he made this connection of these guys need to meet. There was something about our work, the way we went about our daily life, I guess, with the vigor. And so I was introduced to this gentleman and found out that he did photography for a living. I was not aware that that was even a job. And he explained to me that, you know, I put down the rifle, picked up a camera, and it's something stuck with me, and I basically started working with him and did photography essentially for 20 years, almost 20 years. I still shoot photos, but I now work for the Forest Service. So,
So what are you doing now, and how did you think that you got to your present position?
So after years of doing photography, one of my later assignments in life, I got to work with National Geographic on the Lynx Reintroduction Project here in Colorado. So I actually spent a couple of summers traveling around Colorado, photographing lynxes, finding lynxes, and we worked closely with biologists from the Forest Service around Colorado. Something sort of stuck in my brain about being out in the wilderness, observing nature, just sort of, you know, slowing down and observing what was out there. And I went down to the Forest Service office shortly thereafter and started volunteering for the Forest Service. And I guess after about 3 years of volunteer work, I actually got a seasonal position there, and it ended up turning into an offer for a full-time position, which I then decided I would retire from photography, not have to travel so much, and take a new job doing something else I love. So
You love it, and you have that little girl to raise, and you're going to be in this community for the future.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, I know that you're not, well, there really aren't any organized veterans. There's American Legion in Carbondale, but as far as this area goes, the veterans kind of interact with each other on an informal basis and get a lot of things done. And I understand the Forest Service is hiring veterans. Are you involved with that, trying to help these veterans get back and get a good start?
I am. We have it's called a Special Emphasis Program Manager, so there are quite a few different categories. I'm the veterans representative. So in the federal service right now, they've actually given a lot of I would call them benefits, I guess, to veterans. And so as far as being competitive for the jobs and as far as making that transition, I sort of serve in a capacity to sort of help that transition. So and getting a job for the federal government requires quite a bit of detailed resume type work. And so what I do is help people transition or get their resume converted into some keywords that the Forest Service will recognize as very valuable. Leadership, all of the stuff that we learn in the military is directly translatable to civilian life. Sometimes it's just using the correct wording to get that across. And so what I do is help that transition. So, and then also making sure, keeping contact with, we actually have quite a few veterans in the, not quite a few, but I guess for a small area, we have quite a few veterans working for our Forest Service in the White River National Forest. And so I like to bring awareness to them. It took me about 15 years to go down to the VA and start receiving any benefits, help, anything. And if I can shave off a few years for anybody, I'm more than happy to do that. So I just want to make sure people get set up with the DAV, set up with the VA, they're registered where they need to be, they're getting any benefits they need to be, and they're getting any health care issues solved. And so it's a great program, and I'm pretty proud to work for an organization that values us.
See, you're a young man of 43, and you have 4 years in the Marine Corps. And how many years with the Forest Service?
5 years now. With
5.
the
You
Forest
see,
Service.
on government retirement, you're halfway there.
I am halfway
to
there.
20.
Yes, yes. The
Aren't you?
federal government actually
Yeah.
counts your military time towards your working time. So it's,
Right. So
yep.
that really is stability and makes me feel good that you've got that.
Yep.
It does. Now, you know, I've known you over the years. You know, at all of our Veterans Day and Memorial Day celebrations, and we have a bond of veterans here. And there's, you know, issues that we do have. I'd like to mention a program that Adam McCabe, Sergeant in the Marine Corps, is heading up. It's called Purple Star for Veterans and Families, Strengthening the Homecoming Safety Net. And could you tell me a little bit about what you know about Purple Star, about the fact that there are PTSD veterans in our community? You may run into some or aware of some of the issues.
I can. I was actually fortunate enough to meet Adam briefly a few years ago, and just in my interest in working with veterans a little bit. So we had kind of met, been together a little bit, and then over the years he had actually sort of has now started this program, which amazing. I mean, coming from my side again, there was quite a big gap of military life to civilian life, and to what I consider for me being a functional civilian life, meaning, you know, not struggling so much. And what Adam is trying to do is basically minimize that and help people. And I know in your situation, same thing. There's no transition from going to a lean, mean fighting machine to going to a dad, brother, husband. You know, The program itself, the Purple Star program, again, you notice it says veterans and families. For me, that support group and in your family, for us, for veterans, is actually, you know, you're my family as far as I'm concerned. So not just my wife and not just my daughter,
Right.
but that support group is so important. It's almost overlooked, and it saddens me. So the fact that Adam is putting this kind of hard
Yeah.
time and work into it is just
Yeah.
impressive. And again, I feel it's going to
Well,
be.
I'd like to present this to you to hang in your window to support Purple Star.
I've got a window it will be in.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's good. That's good.
Thank you.
So now we have another common bond here. We're talking about PTSD. And there's a new program that Paul Anderson, who's a columnist for the Aspen Times, has started. It's called Huts for Vets. And you're on the board of directors. Adam's on the board of directors. I'm on the board of directors. So we kind of are together a lot. Can you kind of give us an overview of Huts for Vets, what we're trying to do in the overall program?
Yeah, similar to what we have discussed about nature, I had read about Paul's program and a little sort of blurb he had written before it had gotten started, and I said, wow, that's going to be a great program. Let's see where this goes, you know, and see if it comes to fruition. And lo and behold, not too much longer, Paul Anderson actually contacted me through the Forest Service, specifically with my Special Emphasis Program Manager position, and he wanted to discuss a few things with me. We got together and talked, and once I found out a little bit more about what he was trying to do, I was immediately quite interested and quite willing to be a part of it. And so the guys is showing other veterans, again, with this lack of transition that we have right now, instead of them having to figure it out for themselves over the course of 10, 20 years, we're trying to introduce people to nature as a way to heal. So what we're going to do is take veterans that are suffering from PTSD out into the woods to a hut for 3 days, and we're basically going to introduce them to the concept of nature as a healing tool, and as exercise, as a sense of accomplishment, a sense of attachment to a place, and again, for me, public lands are ours. We should be utilizing them, and nothing exemplifies that more, and I wouldn't care to see anybody else out there other than veterans that have fought for their country, because that's sort of reaping the benefits of what we've done. So hopefully this program does good things in the upcoming time. We have a trip coming up here at the end of June. It'll be our inaugural trip. We have a good group of applicants from what I can see so far. We'll go through a selection process, and hopefully we can touch some lives and ease some pain and speed that transition process up for quite a few veterans, so they don't have to go through stuff that we've gone through.
Yeah, there is an emphasis on combat veterans suffering from PTSD. We have, as we're speaking right now, 30 applications for the first program of 12, and so we are getting the word out there. And we have a number of veterans from the community that are well known as helping people. I know that you've told me that you like to help people and the Forest Service work. There's Lieutenant Colonel Jeremy Oates, Army, is on our board. He's retired, served in Afghanistan, I think 20 years. Dan Glidden, United States Navy, Vietnam, he serves. Fred Van Rick, Marine Corps from Vietnam. Scott Dyer, who helps an outward bound recovery group. And of course there's Paul. And then we have with us Dr. Jerry Alpern, who's a psychiatrist. And we're very fortunate to have Jerry because he dealt with returning veterans. We didn't call it PTSD, but it was shell shock or whatever was in the Army back in Pennsylvania. So he had seen this from the Korean War and is kept up with what is leading into PTSD. So I feel that we're really quite well staffed, and Paul has led these retreats, and he has some instructors from Outward Bound that are going to help us too. So I feel that we're well staffed and ready to go.
I feel the same way. I feel when we get together as a board and start talking, the passion, there's a lot of people that are in wholeheartedly, and at some point that's what it's going to take to get this stuff to be successful. Not everybody is able to be touched and reached out to at the same time, but again, persistence, and I believe with that many Marines in one place, something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close? I've really enjoyed interviewing this morning.
I would like to thank you for taking the time to do this, and I'm glad to be here. It's always tough to talk about, but I believe that the more we discuss it and the more it's out there, more people know about what we're doing and what we do, the better off we'll be.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming here this morning, Brian.
Thank you, Colonel Merritt.
I'd like to present you to the a pin. I support the Roaring Fork Veterans History Project. You're the 57th veteran from the Valley that's been interviewed, number 57.
Awesome.
So we're moving forward, and we have a number of interviews with veterans in the wing. So in closing, I'd like to mention that the Roaring Fork Veterans History Project exists to capture the personal stories of veterans of all wars, especially those veterans whose stories may soon be lost. To support this important community project, please contact Dick Merritt, United States Marine Corps, at 970-927-5178 or email merritt1@q.com, MERRITT 1@q.com. Thank you very much.